Hey guys, how you doing? Luna here with a new video. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am really excited because I bring you a brand new episode of the Versus series. A really weird one too. Last week it was John Lennon versus Bob Dylan, and I said multiple times in that video how weird it was for me to make it because of how different Bob Dylan and John Lennon are, and how unfair the matchup seemed to be. But someone decided to make a comment on that video, this lovely human right here, asking me to do a Bob Dylan versus Paul McCartney video, which is even more crazy when you think about how different the two of them are. Because you can kind of, build a bridge between John Lennon and Bob Dylan because of their political side, the political side of their music, because of how they were kind of restrained by their lack of skill when it comes to performing songs that require high notes or really good vocal skill. You can kind of say that they have some things in common, but when it comes to Paul McCartney and Bob Dylan, there's almost nothing there. So I was going to ignore the comment for a minute, but then I said, this is one of the first requests I've had on the channel, so I'm not about to just let it go. So I decided to try my best. Here's the video. I really hope you enjoy it. Also, I already have a video on the channel, a versus video between John Lennon and Paul McCartney, so you can just go in the channel and find that video. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever done, and one of the hardest ones too, because of how much I loved both of them. So yeah, you should go ahead and check that out. If you don't know the way I do these videos, I pick 4 different categories, which is influence, performance, popularity, and discography, and based on the winner in each category, I choose a winner by the end of the video. However, I must say that this is only my personal opinion, so if you have your own, please go ahead and leave it down below in the comments, and I'll make sure to check it out. Also, if you want me to do this type of video with a different type of artist, then go ahead and leave it down below too. I also do tier lists, ranked videos, I do regular reviews, so just let me know what you want me to do and I'll make sure to do it as soon as I can, because as you can see, I'm really fucking fast when it comes to doing videos. 24 hours after the comment was made, I'm here with the fucking video. Who else is gonna treat you that good? If anything, this is just a sign for you to subscribe to the channel, because I treat my subscribers really well here. Okay, so what are you waiting for? With that being said, we can just go on with the first category, which will be popularity. The reason why I always put popularity as the first category is because I don't really give a fuck about the level of popularity an artist may have. If I like your music, I don't really care if you have 0 listeners, 0 fucking fans, 0 streams on your songs. If I like the music, I like the music and that's it. But a lot of people seem to care about popularity a lot, and I think it's an interesting topic, especially when you talk about artists that come from the 60s and 70s, where social media was nowhere to be seen and internet wasn't even a thing. So when it comes to Paul McCartney and Bob Dylan, I know that a lot of people may be confused, especially if you're American. You may believe that Bob Dylan is way bigger than he actually was. I mean, he was a worldwide star. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he wasn't at the same level of popularity that Paul McCartney was when it comes to Beatlemania and the whole rush of the Beatles, all the way to Germany, places that, English was not even a thing. They knew who Paul McCartney was, and they were asking for fucking music in their language, as you can see in the fucking German versions of, songs from the Beatles. So giving the point to anyone other than Paul in this category, it would just be a fucking lie. Especially if you consider the fact that even today, fucking 50 years after his career started, he's still pretty much relevant. People love his interviews. He has a lot of charisma when it comes to, explaining his stories with the Beatles and his stories as a solo artist. Wings was a really popular band too. Their tour over America is one of the greatest tours ever, and it gave birth to one of the greatest live albums ever, by the way. So I think it's safe to say that even though Bob Dylan, due to his political input and how popular his songs were, especially when it was covered by another artist, as you can see in songs like Knocking on Heaven's Door, for example, with Guns N' Roses, he was really popular, he was really big. He is still pretty big right now, even though he doesn't do a lot of interviews, and he's kind of a really shady guy when he actually does an interview. But overall, he's nothing compared to Paul when it comes to popularity. Okay, so Paul takes a point in this one. However, we have a far more interesting category coming up with influence. And when it comes to influence, I think that's pretty safe to say that Bob Dylan takes the point, because Bob Dylan created a whole new way of performing music. You know, he kick-started a whole revolution when it comes to performing songs even though you don't have the technical ability to do so, and that inspired people like Leonard Cohen, David Bowie, John Lennon, you know, legendary musicians that owe Bob Dylan a lot due to his creativity and his ability to create compelling narratives and, you know, express his feelings through the music without the need of a melodic tune. Paul also has a lot to offer when it comes to influence, especially if you go to his 70s material like Band on the Run, and especially Ram and albums like McCartney 1, basically kickstarting the indie genre, doing albums that are not really required to have all this production behind it. It was just him, his wife, and, you know, the studio. But comparing that to basically shifting the entire nature of songwriting and music in the 60s was basically what Bob Dylan did. It kind of pales in comparison to that. So I'm giving this point to Bob Dylan. So far, we've had a clear winner in each category, but I think that with the next one, it's not going to be as clear as you think, because we're about to talk about performance. And when it comes to performance, I don't really think we have a clear winner, because on one side you have Bob Dylan, which, you know, he created a whole new style of performing, so only for that he should obviously take the win. But also you have Paul, which is basically one of the greatest voices that rock music has to offer. His technical ability was almost perfect, and matter of fact, I think that he rivals people like Robert Plant, fucking Ozzy Osbourne, and even Freddie Mercury, if you ask me. And I'm not even kidding. I mean, you only have to look at songs like Oh Darling, I've Got a Feeling, Been on the Run, Monkberry Moon Delight, Eat at Home. I mean, songs that show his versatility when it comes to performing music. He wasn't scared to jump into new styles of music and perform in them because he had the ability to adapt and modify his voice to sing in a different tune with a different pace. It was just amazing. And, you know, if you think that he was doing all this while also playing the bass most of the time, it's even more remarkable. If you want to listen to Paul's voice when it was at his peak and he could sing all these songs and it made it look so easy, you definitely check out Wings Over America, because you see a lot of his Beatles output and his Wings output in that album, so you can hear, you know, his voice at 100% in every single song. So choosing a winner here is really difficult based on like the facts, so I'm just gonna go for my favorite one, which in this case is Paul. I'm pretty sure that Bob Dylan deserves more credit when it comes to what he did for music, but for me, you know, I always find Paul's performing so much more enjoyable, and I find it to be such a huge part of, you know, what I like about Paul McCartney. So based on that, I'm gonna give Paul the point, but it could go either way. It may actually, you know, the fair thing to do here would be a draw, but I can't lie. If I'm being honest to myself, I rather Paul's performance by a mile. So I'm going to give him the point in this one, which leads me to the most important category in the whole video, which is discography. And when it comes to discography, I think it's pretty safe to say that Bob Dylan takes a point. Bob Dylan's discography is one of the greatest things that music has to offer. If you compare the highs that Paul McCartney has, which would be albums like Ram, Been on the Run, McCartney 1, or maybe Venus and Mars, and you compare that to records like Highway 61 Revisited, Bringing It All Back Home, Blood on the Tracks, Desire, John Wesley Harding, Blonde on Blonde, like the difference in quality is so vast that it's impossible for me to not give the point to Bob Dylan on this category specifically. Even when you go to, you know, the most recent albums, Bob Dylan has Tempest and Rough and Rowdy Ways, and Paul McCartney has Egypt Station, New, and fucking McCartney 3, which are not bad albums, you know, they're solid records, but when you compare those to the fucking storytelling masterpieces that Bob Dylan has, then it's really hard to say that Paul was the best one here. Obviously, if you count the Beatles discography, it changes, like, you know, it may change my opinion, because the Beatles, in my opinion, have the greatest discography of all time. But taking the discography of a band that have 3 other legends, absolute legends, as band members, and using that as Paul's solo discography, it would be really fucking unfair to Bob Dylan, you know. In my opinion, Bob Dylan was not only better in terms of quality, it was way more influential, way more groundbreaking, way more creative, you know. The storytelling masterpieces that Bob Dylan was doing in the 60s and 70s were some of the greatest things music has to offer. Instead, Paul has some really good albums. Again, Ram is a really good record, Band on the Run, I like Venus and Mars, but there's no way in hell that you can say that those albums are on the same level of quality as most of Bob Dylan's discography. So in my opinion, Bob Dylan takes this point, and that leads me to my conclusion. And my opinion is that Bob Dylan takes the point on this video because it's really simple. Again, if you count the Beatles years and if you count the Beatles' success and, a footprint in the music industry as Paul's solo achievement, then I guess you could say that Paul wins the video. But when you only look at what Paul did as a solo artist and the things he achieved in the music that he wrote, and you compare that to Bob Dylan, and how many people Bob influenced and how many amazing performances we had from him, not only in the 70s, but when he reinvented himself multiple times throughout the 80s and 90s and 2000s, it's so hard for me to look at Paul and say that he's superior. Maybe because of how popular he is right now and because of how much story and context we have over his music now, because of all the stories that he likes to tell, one may be inclined to say, yeah, Paul is the better artist. But when you actually listen to the music and when you look at the impact that each of them had in the music industry, it's pretty much obvious that Bob Dylan takes a point in here. So after saying all that, even though I love Paul and he's my favorite out of the two, Paul is one of my favorite artists ever, I have to say that when you look at the facts and when you look at the music, Bob Dylan takes the win in this matchup. That will be it for today's video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the videos that I upload. Thank you very much once more for requesting this video. I really hope that you enjoyed. If you disagree with me, please go ahead and leave a comment down below, and then we can have a small chat in the comment section. And that includes everyone who's watching this video, okay? If you disagree with me or don't like something I said, you can leave it down below in the comments, and everyone can have a small debate in the comment section. That's pretty much the reason why I created this channel. So what are you waiting for? With that being said, once again, I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that I can see you guys soon with a new video. But until then, bye.